What's up, guys? It's Eric from Rare Caney, and today we're back with another deck profile and battle on PTCGO. And this time we're kind of revisiting an older deck. I had a little bit of success here and there around the States format, if I remember correctly. But I felt like Steam Siege gave it a decent new boost, so I wanted to revisit this and see if we could, update it a little bit for the new set. So we're taking a look at Rainbow Road, and basically it's just featuring the Xerneas that has the Rainbow Force attack. So Xerneas, at first glance, I never thought much of this card, but it's definitely decent. So it has the Rainbow Force attack. For just a fairy and a DCE, it does 10 plus 30 more for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. So that doesn't seem like too much, like I said, just because it's like, man, I have to run all these different types of Pokemon. They might not even be useful to me. They just need to sit on my bench to do more damage. It doesn't seem that good. But you'd be surprised with how quickly this can stack up in damage. Especially now that Steam Siege is out, we have the new dual type Pokemon, and I think that really gives this deck a big boost. It really helps your consistency because I know previous Rainbow Road decks, they had to run all sorts of junk like Golurk and stuff like that, which just sat on their bench. They couldn't attack with it. And there's still a couple Pokemon kind of like that in this list, but overall, um, everything is pretty purposeful, which I like about this deck now. Also has weakness to metal, which is great for post rotation. Um, since Bronzong is leaving the format, there's not really many relevant metal attackers. So he has a good weakness, resistant to dark, which is nice. Then 120 hit points and 2 retreat. So let's go over the rest of this list. So we have 2 Shaman EX for obvious reasons. We're just using it for the setup attack. So whenever you bench Shaman, you can draw until you have 6. Just 2 of those guys. One of the new dual types we're going to be playing is actually going to be a 2/2 line of Pawniard. I'm sorry, Bisharp. So Bisharp is dark and metal, and it has the attack Retaliate. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during their last turn, this does 60 more damage. So just for a single attachment, you can do 90. And Xerneas actually is one of the more hyped, uh, I guess, cards for post rotation, specifically Xerneas Break. I know a lot of people are anxious to try that out, and we actually should have a deck featuring that as well pretty soon. I'm not sure the exact upload date, but we do have one of those in the works too. So this is actually cool because you can hit Xerneas for weakness. There's not too many dark weak Pokemon after the rotation, but more so than anything, it's just a decent backup attacker that can two-shot EXs. But like we said, it also has the nice dual typing. So that's the main reason we are running this guy. So we're also running 1 Carbink. So it's nice it has the Safeguard ability. We're not really going to attack with this guy. It is one of these more bench sitter type of Pokemon that we have in this deck. But if we start with it or get it out in the early games, we can potentially just put it up as a wall to buy us a few turns. Okay, we also have the Celebi promo. A lot of people forget about this card. It has the Theta Stop ability, so prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon. So that's kind of nice because it can shut off Greninja. And I believe you can also stop Garbodor, if I'm not mistaken, too, which would be nice because its ability is pretty good here. So Celebi has the Leap Through Time ability. When this Pokemon is knocked out, flip a coin. If head, shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck, and your opponent can't take any prizes for it. So this is a great card to actually open the game with while you're setting up, because half the time your opponent won't even get to draw a prize for knocking it out. And what's cool is, if I'm not mistaken, even when they knock out Celebi and don't draw a prize, I believe Bisharp's Retaliate will still do 90 if I'm not mistaken. Double check me on that, but I believe that is the ruling on it. So Celebi's cool. There's not really any other relevant grass cards I could think of to put in this list, so I felt like this would be a pretty decent one that we could include. Next up, we have a 2/1 Raichu line. So Raichu has Circle Circuit. This attack is 20 times the number of your bench Pokemon. So pretty good. You know, we play Skyfield in this deck. We want to have a large bench. So Raichu's a nice little backup attacker that we have. I would really love to find space for another one in this list, but this has actually been one of the hardest decks I have found to build. There's so much you need to run in it, and you know, cuts had to be made somewhere. So unfortunately, I had to cut this down to a 2-1 Raichu. But the biggest thing is we need at least one of these Pikachus on the bench. So if one goes down early on, we'll still have another one for later in the game. Because more than anything, we want to just abuse all of these Pokemon for their typing, and to a lesser extent their attack. So that's why we're still playing the extra Pikachu. So next up we have the Mew from Fate's Glide. And this is actually kind of a neat card. It has the attack and counter. You can search your deck for a Pokemon, put it in your hand. So that's kind of nice, especially with this deck. There's so many different Pokemon you might want to draw. So it's a decent starter if you start with it. But its ability is also handy if we go against something like Mega Mewtwo. So it has the ability Memories of Dawn. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any of your basic Pokemon in play. So if we have one of our Xerneas in play, we can actually power up a Mew and attack with Mew and use Rainbow Force to one-shot Mewtwo EXs if we somehow can't do that with our Xerneas. Because Mega Mewtwo is one of the more hyped decks going into post-rotation. I think probably that and Mega Ray have been seeing the most talk. So Mew can help us more easily knock out Mega Mewtwo. And then just to round out the Pokemon line, we have one Volcanion EX. So yet another one of these dual types. It's really nice because we can just throw it down. We don't have to evolve into it like Bisharp. And I really couldn't think of many other relevant fire or water types we would want to run in place of this anyways. So Volcanion's great. He can really help you just get down that extra bit of damage really quickly. Essentially, one Ultra Ball will net you an extra 60 damage for the turn. So definitely a really cool card. The only downside to this is that he does have 3 retreat. So he is definitely a Lysander target in this deck. I was kind of torn between Bisharp or Zoroark. Zoroark is kind of nice because he, you know, prevents things from being Lysander stalled like this Volcanion. But figure, I don't know, the Bisharp frees up a little bit of space because then you don't have to run additional metal Pokemon in the list because it is a dual type. So that's the only downside. Our Volcanion is potentially a Lysander target, but we do run Float Zones to help deal with that if need be. So next up, I'll just start with the supporter line. So we have 3 Professor Sycamore, discard your hand and draw 7. Good for obvious reasons. We can dump resources we don't want and get a fresh hand. We are playing more copies of N in this list just because I found that, you know, a lot of times in the early game, we really don't want to discard our hand just because we'll have pieces of evolution lines, maybe like a double colorless energy or something. So that's why we are maxing out N instead of Sycamore, but nevertheless, we are going to be running a thick count of Sycamore too. So next up, like I said, we have 4N. Each player shuffles their hand into his or her deck, then draws equal to the amount of prize cards they have left. So it's obviously good. It's a good form of shuffle draw, and also in the later game, we can use it to disrupt our opponent and potentially put them down at a low hand size. Okay. We have 1 Pokemon Ranger. Remove all effects of attacks on each player and his or her Pokemon. So this is nice in case we go against something like Jolteon EX that would typically lock out our Xerneas from attacking. So we can use it on that. That's probably the most relevant thing. I can't think of much else off the top of my head. We're basically doing this so that we have a way to still one-shot Jolteons, basically. Okay. Oh, and not entirely true. You can also use it to get rid of Giratina's Chaos Wheel attack. Usually won't let you put down Stadium's tools or special energy. I forgot that was the other reason for the inclusion. So it can also be used to clear out Giratina's effects of his attack. So we have 1 Lysander. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon just to take knockouts whenever we need them. 1 Hex Maniac. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon in play, in hand, and discard pile has no abilities. So all of our attackers aren't really ability reliant. The only exception would maybe be Mew if we go against a Mega Mewtwo, but that's such a rare case, I guess you could say. So Hexmaniac is good because if we play against a Vileplume, we can clear the item lock. It's also good against Greninja Break just because I think Greninja would probably have a good matchup against this. So I feel like it'll help give us an edge in that matchup as well. Then we're just playing 2 copies of Bridget. If you can open with this, this is actually probably your preferred supporter. So let you search your deck for either 1 basic EX or 3 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. So that's really nice because we run all these different attackers. We really want to fill up our bench with all this different stuff. So Bridget is really nice in the opening portions of the game. And late game, we do have Versus Seeker, so we could potentially just search out that Volcanion, like I said, just to get down that extra 60 damage. Okay, for our item cards, we are playing 4 Versus Seeker, just to reuse all these supporters that we are playing in the list. 4 Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, and search your deck for any Pokemon. So, pretty self-explanatory. We have a lot of different stuff we must search out. We're also playing 1 Level Ball, so search your deck for a Pokemon with under 90 hit points and put it into your hand. You know, we have so many Pokemon with 90 hit points in this deck. You know, Raichu, Pikachu, Pawniard, Mew, Celebi, Carbink as well. So this has a lot of potential targets. For Max Elixir, look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach a basic energy card you find there to a basic Pokemon on your bench. So Xerneas does typically have kind of an awkward attack cost, a Fairy and a DCE. So without Max Elixir, you don't really have a good way of powering it up in 1 turn. So if your only powered up Xerneas gets knocked out, you really don't want to waste 2 turns powering it up. You really want to be able to promote like a free retreating Pokemon like Raichu or Mew, and then attach a double colorless energy and Max Elixir of Fairy Energy onto your Xerneas to power them up for the next turn. So we're playing this. I would love to run more basic energy in this list, but honestly, I just don't have the space. So probably 1 or 2 of our Max Elixirs will fail a game. So that's why we're maxing out just in case that does happen. So we're playing 1 Super Rod. Shuffle any 3 combination of Pokemon and basic energy from your discard back into your deck. So just a good form of recovery if a couple of Pokemon get knocked out or we have to Sycamore some stuff away in the early turns. We can just get it back with Super Rod later in the game. Okay, we're also playing 2 Floatstone. Luckily, most of our Pokemon do have very manageable retreat cost. Volcanion EX is one of the more problematic ones, so we definitely want a Floatstone on that guy if at all possible. And also, we can just put it on someone else and give them free retreat. Then 1 EXP share. So whenever your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage by an opponent's attack, you may move a basic energy card that was attached to that Pokemon to the Pokemon that EXP shares on. So let's say you have a Xerneas that's powered up in the active spot and another one on the bench. Well, if the one on the bench has an EXP share, whenever that active Xerneas gets knocked out, you get one of the energies that was attached to him. So it's just another card that helps keep us streaming our attackers throughout the course of the game. Okay, and the last of our trainer cards is going to be 3 Skyfield. So each player can have 8 Pokemon on their bench. So ideally, if we get a full bench, you can easily knock out Megas with this deck. You know, it's not uncommon for Xerneas to get up in the 200 something hit point range. So Skyfield, let's just do the math. For example, if we have each of our Pokemon, each of these different types in play. So 30, 70, 100, 130, 160, 190, 220, 250, 280. So if you have all of these different guys in play, you can do up to 280 damage with a Xerneas. That's pretty insane. So Skyfield just helps us constantly ensure that we have a large amount of Pokemon in play. And then for the energies, we're playing 4 double colorless energy. And you got to play the pink ones if you're playing a Xerneas deck. Just kind of a given, you know? And then after that, just 8 Fairy Energy. So yeah, guys, that is the list. And like I said before, this is kind of a difficult deck to build. I couldn't even fit Trainer's Mail in here. So that's how you know that this is kind of awkward to build. But anyways, I do like this deck. It definitely gained a boost from Steam Siege. Now I'm going to kick over to the battle portion of the video. That way you can see how this deck looks in action, okay? Alright guys, so it looks like we found ourselves a match here. Our opponent's calling the coin flip. And it looks like we did win the coin flip, so we definitely want to go first. And we see he had a Psychic coin and a Psychic set of card sleeves. So maybe we're playing against Mewtwo, could be Night March or Trevenant. PTCGO doesn't have the rotation in its matches yet, so we'll have to see what we get here. So they do have Trubbish, which could be problematic, but here we do open with a Bridget, which is definitely what you like to see. So we're going to have Pikachu, Pawniard, and a Xerneas. Just in case our active Pikachu gets knocked out. We definitely want to have one ready on the bench because we really don't know what our opponent's playing. They might be able to pull out a turn 1 knockout. We just don't know. And also, the only thing is we don't really have a Pokemon for next turn, but we're going to try to thin out our deck as much as possible. So here we're going to grab a Mew off the level ball, and we'll probably see a Max Elixir come down as well. And that is unfortunate, we don't hit it. So let's see, we'll probably just attach to Xerneas, and that way it'll leave us with the opportunity to attach DCE to our Raichu for next turn, or attach it to Xerneas. So it'll give us an option to attack with either one of these. So let's see what our opponent gets out. And he puts down a Shrine of Memory, so that kind of tells me we're probably playing it some Mega Mewtwo. So it's hard to see how that goes. So for those who don't know, they use Shrine of Memories to copy the basic Mewtwo EX's damage swap ability, and it moves all of the damage off Mewtwo onto your opponent's Pokemon. So it kind of forces us to either one-shot all of his Mewtwo's or win the Stadium War. And so we'll just have to see how that goes. Otherwise, Mewtwo can kind of run over us. And if he gets out Garbodor, that's going to kind of take out the option for Mew to ever come into play here as well. So we might have to just attack with Xerneas the entire time. Oh, and here we top deck a Xerneas, which is not what you want to see. And I guess here, what do? I guess you can attack with a Raichu for 100, or attack with Xerneas. Unfortunately, I think we might have to attack with Xerneas here, because if we do Circle Circuit with Raichu, it's only going to do 80 damage. So we need to kind of do this, and at least start putting Mewtwo in 2-shot range. And there I almost ended my turn without attacking. So here we're going to do 100 damage, and we did bump his Stadium at least, so we're doing everything we can to maximize our chances of staying in the game. So if he does hit a Mewtwo in Spirit Link, we will get knocked out, unfortunately though. So he does bump the Skyfield, but he did already attach to the Mewtwo on the bench, so that kind of tells me that we're not going to see a damage change come into play here. So, because was it Mewtwo EX or Mega Mewtwo EX has the attack Psychic Infinity. It's like 10 plus 30 more for every energy on both active Pokemon. So if he gets the Mega, we definitely will get knocked out here, which will be unfortunate because we really don't have anything to work with. Okay, he does hit Super Rod, so he'll be able to get back. I believe he had a Mewtwo and a Garbodor. Okay, and a Psychic Energy, so that's good for him. He's probably looking to get those. So he's digging for that Mewtwo. If he hits Mewtwo, like I said, we're going to be in trouble. So does he get it? That's the big question. And it looks like he's taking a minute to think. Oh man, so he does actually hit the Mewtwo. And like I said, Mewtwo will be able to use Psychic Infinity to knock us out. Luckily, he doesn't have Garbodor, so that might give us an out to use a Shaman if we can draw into that. So I guess here, what do? You just promote Raichu maybe? Or Mew, I guess that's fine as well. Oh, and luckily we top deck an N. We really needed that. We were going to be in bad shape otherwise. Okay, this actually works out. If we can hit the Max Elixir, that'll be huge because we'll be able to actually knock out this Mewtwo. And we do hit it, so we can attach the Fairy Energy off Max Elixir, attach DCE, and then bench that Carbink actually to get just enough damage to knock out this Mega Mewtwo. So here we'll see Rainbow Force for 130, taking the prize lead. And nice, so we will be able to get down our Bisharp next turn. The only thing is we don't have a Sky Field anymore, so we won't be able to bench Celebi unless we draw into another one. But at least getting down the Bisharp will be nice. Okay, let's see. Okay, he does get a Psychic Energy down on Mewtwo. And I mean, if he can just keep Mega Evolving and knocking out our Mewtwo's, or knocking out our Xerneas, it's going to be kind of hard for us to keep streaming them for every turn of the game. So, he doesn't have a Spirit Link yet, so maybe we'll get lucky here. That'd be nice. Oh, and here he just promotes Shaman. And I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, and he has to waste his turn Mega Evolving. Doesn't have a supporter. I think he probably should have promoted the other Trubbish, just because now we're going to be able to go down to 2 prizes, which would make us only need to knock out one more Shaman or Mewtwo. Whereas if he would have promoted the Trubbish without the Float Stone, that would put us down to only 3 prizes, forcing us to take 2 knockouts instead. So I think that may have been a misplay on our opponent's part here. So I'm just debating where to attach this Fairy Energy. Opted for the Raichu just because that puts Raichu and Bisharp within a 1 energy attachment range. Here we're going to knock out that Shaman, drawing 2 more prizes. In hindsight, maybe should have discarded some stuff with Ultra Ball in case of an N. So here we're going to promote Mew. Oh, I think I remember. I was saving it in case he knocked out our Xerneas. That way we can Ultra Ball for a Xerneas the following turn. So here, what can we really do? That's the question. I really don't want to discard all of this stuff. Like, I'd like to be able to bench some Shamans this game, but we really can't afford to end here. So we do have another Xerneas, which is good. We definitely need to get that guy down. So here I'm just looking through my deck, seeing what resources that we have left for the later turns. Yeah, I think we should just grab a Xerneas. I think that's our best bet here. And it looks like I'm double guessing myself, but yeah, I do think that is probably the correct play. So here we'll do this, probably attach to the active, and maybe we can hit like another Max Elixir or something off of this Sycamore. So here I'm debating if I want to power Bisharp or Raichu. I think either one is fine, but Raichu can at least hit for 100, so may as well do a little bit of extra damage, I suppose. Okay, and we do hit EXP Share and Skyfield, so we will be able to bump that Stadium. And he didn't play a supporter, so hopefully he won't be able to draw into another Shrine of Memories. So here we're going to do 100 damage, and if he can't heal this or get rid of this Shaman, that's actually going to be the game. So here he's going to grab Hoopa. The one downside to this post-rotation format is there's no AZ, so he would actually have to Ninja Boy, I think, and heal off this Mewtwo. But Shaman, unfortunately, is stuck there because Ninja Boy is currently banned on PTCGO. So our opponent just needs a lot of different things here, but unfortunately, he just has a Psychic Infinity. We will be able to grab a Fairy Energy, put it on that Xerneas, because it has EXP Share. Here we'll just promote Mew. We'll attach a DCE, and you know what? We haven't got out Volcanion EX yet. He's kind of one of the, I guess, the big cards in this deck that we like to play. So we're just going to use that versus Seeker, grab ourselves a Bridget here. And let's get that guy out and just do a little bit extra damage, just because we can. So we'll retreat, send up our guy Xerneas here, and we use Rainbow Force for a whopping 220. So even if he had been able to use damage swap or damage change, whatever it's called, we would have still been able to knock out his Mewtwo in one hit. So there you can kind of see the power of this Rainbow Road deck. Sometimes it's a little bit clunky because you have to get down all these different Pokemon, but as you can see, whenever you start filling up your bench, Xerneas can start doing some absurd damage for just a non-EX basic. So that is the Rainbow Road deck, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let us know in the comments below what you think about this deck, if there's anything you would change or any decks you want us to cover in the future. But that's it. Feel free to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out our merch at rarecandytcg.com. We're actually doing a sale until the end of August. Certain items are 10% off, so definitely go in there, check out what we have, see if there's something you might want to pick up to help support the channel. But that's it, guys. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one, okay?